Hi and welcome to The Wire. I'm Siddharth Vardarajan. It's been less than a month since the Modi government staged what everybody calls a midnight coup at the Central Bureau of Investigation, sending Director Alok Verma packing and replacing him with an acting director, purportedly in order to allow the Central Vigilance Commissioner KV Chaudhary to conduct a so-called impartial probe into allegations against Verma that had been levelled by Special Director Rakesh Asthana, a gentleman against whom the CBI had filed an FIR on charges of bribery and extortion barely 5 or 6 days, a week before Verma was shunted out. If the government had hoped that its action against Verma would somehow put a lid on the crisis at the CBI and put a lid on a festering set of issues that the CBI's investigators were beginning to bring to the surface, it better rethink its strategy, because with each passing week more and more information that is damaging to the government appears to be coming into the public domain. We at The Wire, perhaps as early as 2 or 2.5 months ago, first discussed the possibility of what was being called a civil war on the CBI actually being a mask for the complete dysfunctionality of the country's premier investigating agency in the face of sustained government interference aimed at protecting key individuals who are useful to and who occupy a principal position in the Modi government, both at the PMO and of course in different branches of the state. And we had reasoned at that point that very soon events in the CBI would reach breaking point and it would be impossible for the Modi government to paper over some of the allegations that were bound to harm its reputation. Well, today, Monday, a former senior official at CBI headquarters in Delhi, he was one of those who was shunted out after Alok Verma, sent off to Nagpur. Joint Director Manish Kumar Sinha, very senior official, filed a petition in the Supreme Court, essentially intervening in Alok Verma's case to make two essential pleas. One, that his transfer was malified and aimed at stalling ongoing investigations against powerful people, and two, in order to ensure that those investigations take place in the right manner, the Supreme Court should order the constitution of a special investigation team that could probe the Moin Qureshi case and all the associated allegations of extortion, no matter where this investigation were to lead, no matter how powerful or how influential the suspects involved may be. Joining me today to discuss this explosive petition filed by Manish Kumar Sinha is Rohini Singh, who as you know is my colleague who has been tracking this issue for several months now. Rohini, you've been through the petition. What to your mind are the most explosive aspects of what Manish Kumar Sinha has put down?
Siddharth, I think the most explosive aspects in Mr. Sinha's petition is the bribery charge that he's levelled against a sitting minister of the Modi government, Haribhai Chaudhary. Haribhai Chaudhary is no ordinary minister. Let us remember that he's, was a powerful MP in Gujarat. He was a non-entity in state politics as such, but very close to the Prime Minister. And Prime Minister Modi had handpicked him and got him from Gujarat to the centre. The other interesting and I would say a very, very explosive revelation made by Mr. Sinha is on the role of the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Mr. Doval comes across as someone who's been interfering in a lot of ongoing investigations, some very, very serious charges there. And one of the things that is put out in the petition is that he's interfering at the behest of some people who've helped him out at a personal level. Now, that's an extremely serious charge because the Central Bureau of Investigation does not report to the NSA. It reports to, the Ministry of DOPT and to the CVC. I don't understand why the NSA should be interfering in the first place.
If I pause you on the Doval factor for a minute and go back to the minister and the allegation of bribery, what the petition says is that a sum of some crores, Manish Sinha is a bit vague about the amount, paid by somebody from Ahmedabad. Now, the minister concerned is a Gujarat MP. Minister of State for Coal and Mining. Earlier he was in the Home Ministry, so these are not insignificant portfolios, and clearly he is somebody whom Mr. Modi would have worked with in the past. Obviously, somebody Mr. Modi's handpicked to be part of his council of ministers. And, obviously the allegation has to be probed. And as part of the story that you filed today, you sent a questionnaire to the minister, and we will await his response. I would imagine he will deny the allegations. But the point in Sinha's petition is that the allegation is serious enough that it warrants an SIT probe. And I think that's the key issue here, because until now, both the Prime Minister and senior ministers, in the face of allegations that have been mounting, right, Rafale or various other things, have been saying, where is the allegation against any minister? And now you have an allegation levelled not by the opposition, not by you or me, but by a joint director of the CBI.
No, absolutely. And I think that is the most damaging part of this entire petition. This is a joint director of the CBI. This is the same gentleman who was investigating key cases in the CBI, the Mehul Choksi case, the Nirav Modi case. He's somebody who's, he's an IPS officer. He's within the system, and he's making a very serious allegation, not against any other minister, but against this particular minister, Haribhai Chaudhary. And of course, there should be an investigation. There has to be an SIT investigation, but I don't know whether, the government is in any mood to constitute one, which is why I think Mr. Sinha has gone to the Supreme Court.
Right. Only two of the stories that we broke on the day that the government ousted Alok Verma involved the backstory, as it were. One of them was yours, on how the existence of tape recordings and transcripts might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, as it were, that it set off alarm bells. The government didn't want any of this information coming out. The other was on Rafale. Rafale, of course, has taken a slightly different trajectory. There's a separate PIL on that. But what you wrote then about transcripts, intercepts, also appears to be confirmed by Manish Sinha's petition, where he talks about the role of the surveillance unit, the DDG SU, informing him as in his role as somebody who was part of the investigation, of conversations of a highly suspect nature involving the two Dubai-based middlemen, involving a gentleman who works with the RAW, involving, of course, Satish Sana, who is the businessman in Hyderabad who these people are allegedly extorting money from in order to get him off the hook in the Moin Qureshi case. The Doval role is interesting because Sinha alleges that at two crucial points, when the CBI team wanted to look at and in fact seize as evidence the mobile phones of Rakesh Asthana and Devinder Sharma, another senior CBI officer, they were prevented from doing so by Mr. Doval. By what legal authority could he have done such a thing?
That is something that only Mr. Doval needs to answer. As I said, he's the National Security Advisor. He's not the supervising authority of the Central Bureau of Investigation. I'm surprised that investigating agencies were seeking his permission to do what is their job. But then again, Siddharth, at another level, I'm not very surprised, because we hear stories from senior bureaucrats in this government, from senior ministers in this government, that Mr. Doval is a very, very powerful man, that Mr. Doval is somebody who keeps a very close check on all agencies, not just the the Intelligence Bureau and RAW.
Well, one could argue that's his job, right?
Of course, that's his job.
IB and RAW are part of his remit.
Part of his remit. So that is his job. But his job is not to interfere in investigations that's happening in the Enforcement Directorate. That's not his job to interfere in investigations that's happening in the Central Bureau of Investigations or even the Income Tax Department. That Mr. Doval is playing a very crucial role in these, in looking at how these agencies function. And the fact that he was interfering and he was denying permission for certain raids to be carried out or certain searches to be carried out is interesting. The other interesting thing is, which we were told by a senior official in the Central Bureau of Investigation, is that the night when this this whole midnight coup happened, that evening, I believe the CBI director Alok Verma had already given permission for Mr. Asthana to be arrested, and Mr. Asthana was tipped off by someone in the PMO, and that permission had also been given to file a charge sheet against Bhaskar Khulbe, who's again a very, very important bureaucrat in the PMO. and whose name was coming up in the coal scam. So these things had happened, and of course the presence of those recordings. And at that time also, when this entire thing had happened, and we mentioned it then, and we done a show on this, and we'd written about it, that these are not just ordinary recordings. Manoj Prasad and Somesh Prasad are not just any other middlemen. You see so many of them floating around in Delhi. These are very powerful people with links to extremely powerful people in this government.
In fact, Manoj Prasad's father, Dineshwar Prasad, according to Sinha, worked in RAW.
Yes.
And was close to Doval, according to Sinha's petition.
Yes.
And when Manoj Prasad is picked up for interrogation when he lands from Dubai in Delhi, I think on the 15th or 16th morning, October, essentially flaunts his connections in the first instance, to say that I know all these high and mighty people, and how dare you.
Yes, that is what that is what the CBI says, and he said that you people don't know who you're messing around with, and if you interrogate me, you'd be kicked out and punished, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, they were all kicked out. This is essentially, do you know who I am? Yeah, and we've seen that happening in Delhi. But clearly Manoj Prasad was a very, very connected person. He's not like any other middleman, because the government moved only and at midnight because of all the of what he could possibly say. That I believe his phones were also seized. There are messages that the CBI is in possession of, and I don't know what's the status of those messages now, because the CBI is now
everything is up in the air. But the third person against whom questions would arise in the context of Sinha's petition is the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, Central Vigilance Commissioner, K.V. Chaudhary. There's an interesting passage in the petition where Sinha quotes Satish Sana as saying how he had a meeting with the CVC at the CVC's residence, where a relative of the CVC, who was also somehow caught up in the Moin Qureshi dragnet, it transpires that he had sold a piece of land to Sana for 4 crore around the same time roughly that Sana had made a payment to Qureshi, and this was being used to investigate the CVC's relative as well. And what Sinha says is that after that meeting, the CVC speaks to Asthana to find out. Again, highly unusual.
Highly unusual, but knowing Mr. K.V. Chaudhary and what we know about him, and we've been saying this repeatedly in some of our stories and in some of the videos that we've done for The Wire, I'm not surprised. K.V. Chaudhary is somebody whom his colleagues and anyone else who tracks the government would say has a very dodgy and dubious background. Mr. Chaudhary is the same person, Siddharth, who's been going to offices of corporates. He's the same person who...
you reported he went to Nikhil
Merchant's office in Bombay, something that Mr. Chaudhary himself admitted to on record. And the fact that Mr. Chaudhary was meeting somebody, and this is not like any other person that he was meeting as the CVC, if he is meeting somebody who has such a dodgy background, who's being investigated in a bribery and corruption case, I think that's a very, very I think that totally indicts him. Ultimately, as the Central Vigilance Commissioner, he needs to look at maintaining probity in public life. Right. But Mr. Chaudhary's conduct has been anything but that.
Well, I would imagine this petition will also shine a new light when the Supreme Court considers his report on the Alok Verma Asthana matter. In fairness to him, when you reached out to him for a quote, he did say the matter is sub judice, it's before the court, and it wouldn't be appropriate for him to speak on the media, to the media on this. The fourth person, Rohini, Law Secretary Suresh Chandra. Again, a bizarre role alleged by Sinha. I mean, Sinha alleges that Suresh Chandra, is the Union Law Secretary. According to Satish Sana, the Hyderabad businessman who's being squeezed for money allegedly by rogue CBI officers, at a time when the CVC is investigating Asthana and Chaudhary's allegations against each other. So in other words, we're already now in the second week of November, literally last week. Sana says that he got a call from a IAS officer from Andhra Pradesh called Rekha Rani, who said she was acting on behalf of the Union Law Secretary, and that Satish Sana should give a call to the Union Law Secretary to discuss his matter. And when he did so, he claims that the Law Secretary told him that we will offer you protection, presumably as long as you play ball. And this is important because Sana's allegations lie at the heart of this entire case against Asthana.
Sure.
Right? Sana is a guy who was allegedly squeezed for 5 crore, and we reached out to both Rekha Rani and to the Law Secretary, and of course the Law Secretary completely denies this allegation.
Which he will.
Denies even knowing Satish Sana or Rekha Rani. Rekha Rani, however, when I put it to her that do you deny knowing the Law Secretary, do you deny this conversation happened, she said I have to check with him. So it's clear that there is some, maybe they have some they had some kind of conversation on this. I don't know, we're not in a position to judge. But against the backdrop of what happened with the Law Minister Ashwini Kumar in the Manmohan Singh government, when he got canned by the Supreme Court for looking at a coal scam case that the CBI was investigating. I mean, this is something that's equally, if not far more serious.
Actually, I think it's far more serious. It is far more serious because this is not, a minister asking for an update on an ongoing case. And the Central Bureau of Investigation has always seen a lot of political interference, no matter which government is in power. Yeah. But in this case, here we have very, very serious allegations. Not only are top government officials interfering in high-profile corruption cases, we see, if Mr. Sana's allegations are to be believed, that the Law Secretary, who claimed that he was, speaking on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary, P.K. Sinha, we see them trying to even interfere in this whole, this investigation that the CVC was doing, which was a court-monitored investigation. So I think the Supreme Court needs to take, cognizance of the matter, and this was an investigation that they ordered. And if we see that kind of interference that's happening, that, it makes it even more serious.
What dog in the fight would Suresh Chandra or the Cabinet Secretary have in this?
Well, I don't think Suresh Chandra or the Cabinet Secretary are embroiled in any of this massive extortion racket that has been reported by the CBI. Now, Suresh Chandra, as the Cabinet Secretary, he's a bureaucrat, an IS officer.
So somebody would have spoken to him?
Somebody would have spoken to him that he's just carrying out orders. I would only imagine that.
So somebody speaks to the Cabinet Secretary speaks to the Law Secretary, Law Secretary speaks to poor Rekha Rani, if Satish Sana's allegations are correct. And this is how, so essentially we still would need to establish A, if the allegations are correct, then B, who is it who initiated this request for a highly improper conversation? Because at the end of the day, Satish Sana is somebody who, as per the CBI's own official records, is a victim of crime. He's somebody from whom an attempt has been made to extort 5 crore as the price for getting him off the hook. In fact, if you read the allegations contained in Sinha's petition, Sinha essentially reasons that what was happening was that these cases which the ED or the CBI pick up, they linger for years and they're used essentially, you never close them, you keep issuing summons, you find a way to harass, you find a way to extort, and that Satish Sana was likely a victim of that kind of a process. And so in fact, Sinha ends his petition on a rather poetic note where he says that actually it's the l'affaire Satish Sana that the Supreme Court needs to look at carefully. That this malaise of endless investigations which allows the CBI and the ED to become agencies that essentially extort money.
Yes, and he's described the ED as the extortionate directorate and the CBI for Center for Bogus Investigation.
That's right. These are strong words.
These are very strong words.
Strong words from a joint director serving CBI officer. We are out of time, but I will just end by reiterating for the benefit of our viewers that you can find all the details of the latest development in the CBI case, Manish Kumar Sinha's petition and Rohini Singh's story and other follow-up stories on thewire.in, as well as the earlier work that she and other colleagues have done tracing the backstory of this terrible scandal, which to my mind casts a very, very long and ominous shadow over the Modi government. And perhaps the Supreme Court may well reason that at the end of the day, given the gravity of these allegations, given the names of people who are said to be involved, there is perhaps no other way out than to set up a court-monitored special investigation team to probe these charges and get to the bottom of the matter. Thank you very much for watching The Wire.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.